we have a couple of extremely important topics that we will be taking up. First, we are focusing on talking about the concept of governance and e-governance. What is governance? How does it work? What are the characteristics of a good governance? What is e-governance? Examples of e-governance, the problems in e-governance, the issues, the way forward. This is going to be our first topic. Then, second topic for today will be reforms in governance. Reforms in governance, we'll be talking about three types of reforms which are asked very often. We'll be talking about number one, prison reforms in India which are required and why are they required. Second, we'll be talking about healthcare reforms in India, why and how the healthcare reforms are required. And third, we'll be talking about education reforms in India. What are the problems with the education system? What are the reforms that are required? Today's class and also the next class that will be on Monday, the topics that we will be discussing are specifically for the mains examination. So from whatever we will be studying today in today's module and whatever we'll be studying on Monday we have a discussion on the second ARC. Both of these are not asked in the prelims examination. Both of these are asked in the mains examination. So I will not be giving you any prelims practice questions for today's module and the module for Monday. However, today what I'm going to be doing is, today I will be giving you two model answers. Means I will give you the question along with an answer that this is what the content should be that you should write there, so that you can get an idea of what exactly do you have to write, because I know a lot of you just listen to the answer here but don't do any answer writing practice. I know you. So in order to get you or to push you towards at least writing some answers, so you will get content at least of a couple of questions so that you can try and form your own answers. Okay, perfect. So let's begin without any further delay. Let's start with the idea of governance. Now, governance, the name of the entire subject. What do you mean by governance? In simple terms, decision-making process of the government. How does a government rule a country? What are the decisions that they take? How do they impact the lives of the people? Are they impacting the lives of the people in a positive sense? Are they impacting the lives of the people in a negative sense? All of that comes under the concept of government. So decisions taken by a government would be called governance. Decisions can be anything. Decision to demonetize the currency, decision to impose emergency in India, decision to, let's say, have a counter strike, or let's say have a surgical strike, decision to have GST, decision to have a lockdown. All these decisions are a part of governance. Everything that the government does has an impact on your life. Maybe if not you directly, but someone in the population is impacted by the government's decision. This is where governance comes into the picture. Usually, when you talk about governance, ideally, these are the things that we expect from a good government. We expect that the government will keep the people at the center, meaning that the decisions of the government should be made keeping in mind the people. When the government is taking a decision, doesn't matter how excited or unexcited they are, the decision have to be at the end of the day in the interest of the people. Would it make the lives of the people better or not? The government should ensure enhanced democracy. Enhanced democracy means allowing people to come out and take part in the government, asking more and more people to come out and vote, ensuring that more and more people take part in the electoral process. When the government wants suggestions from the people, ensuring that more and more people take part in that. Having or giving the confidence to the people that your voices will be heard. Allowing everyone to fight the elections. Allowing everyone to vote without discrimination. Have greater decentralization. Give more powers at the local level. Let's say give more powers at the rural level, panchayats. Give more powers at the district level. Give powers at the state level, and then remaining powers at the union level. Have more grassroots activism or allow grassroots activism, meaning that if someone or some government or some organization is criticizing the government, allow them to do that. You should not have a situation where anyone speaking against the government, anyone trying to raise a voice against what the government is doing is punished. There has to be more grassroots activism. Government should be more open to criticism. The government should be more accountable. Accountable means more answerable. For example, if the government told the people of India after the first COVID wave that everything is fine, corona is over. If the health minister of the country made a statement after the first COVID wave that everything is over, corona is gone, and after that, in the second wave, we have lakhs of people who died, everyone would know at least one person who died of corona. Do you ever see the government coming out in the open and saying, sorry, we were mistaken? No. And this is a feature of every government since our independence. India has faced a lot of bad things. India-China war, emergency, lockdown, people walking thousands of miles. Have you ever seen a government coming out in the open saying, sorry, we were mistaken, we did not expect this would happen? No. The governments don't come out in the open and take accountability for their action. The government has to be more responsible. More responsible. See, the fact is, not everyone in the country needs the help of the government in equal measure. For example, if you are earning well, you can afford food, you can afford to travel, you don't need the help of the government as much as someone else would. Someone who is not earning money, someone who, let's say, is disabled, someone who doesn't have a house to live, they might need more help of the government. So government should be more responsible to them. And the government should bring more transparency, like the RTI, being more open to the people. Usually it is expected that the government would have all these things. We'll discuss about all of these in detail in just a bit, but just to start the discussion, usually the government is expected to have all these things. Now, good governance, in very simple terms, means effective ideas of the government, effective implementation, effective decision making, so that at the end of the day, we allow the people to have a better life. The idea is very simple. When the government came to power and when the government is leaving power, in these 5 years or less than 5 years, are they leaving the country in a better condition or not? If the government is leaving the country in a better condition, that means it was good government. If the government is not leaving the people or the country in a better condition, means it was not a good government, as simple as that. Now, please understand something. India also, by the way, started celebrating Good Governance Day. In one of the earlier batches, before this slide, I asked the students, why does India celebrate Good Governance Day on 25th of December? And the answer I got was a Christmas. So if you are also thinking on those lines, please remember the answer is not Christmas. Yes, it is Christmas 25th of December, but that is not why we celebrate it on 25th of December. It's because of the birthday of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, India's former Prime Minister, also Bharat Ratna awardee. It was his birthday. That is why we celebrate it. So we also have Good Governance Day in his commemoration. Now, before we take a deep dive into good governance, I'll just tell you a couple of very important things. In this topic of governance and e-governance that we are going to be discussing today, it is extremely important for you that when you write an answer, you have to give examples. What kind of examples? Examples of government initiatives, examples of government schemes, examples of new kind of apps that the government has launched, whatever. But try and give some examples, number one. Second, what do you see on the screen right now? We'll be discussing each of these in detail. Each of these, it's a very common question to be asked in the mains exam also and in the interview as well. See, I'll tell you some of the very common things that the interviewers are very common in asking. Interviewers really like asking questions where you have to give 4 or 5 answers. For example, it's a very common question interviewer will ask you, tell me the 5 good qualities of a civil servant. So you will see, sir, honesty, transparency, integrity, impartial, or whatever. So why do they ask these questions? So that they can start having cross questioning from one point to the other point. So let's say you said 5 words And then they will say, okay, give me an example of when you were honest in your life, or give me an example of when you showed integrity in your life. Such are the usual patterns of how interviews usually begins, and then they have cross questioning inside of it. Similarly, with governance also, it's a very common question to be asked in the interview stage, where the interviewer will ask you, okay, tell me, how would you define a good government? How would you say a government is doing a good job? Or how would you say, or what would you say are the characteristics of a good government? This is how you can actually use this information along with the examples. So it's not just important for your mains examination, but it's also important for your interview stage. Now, what exactly are the characteristics of good governance? Ideally, a good government should be all of this. Let's start our discussion with one by one. First, participatory. A good government should be participatory. Now, what do we mean by that? It means the government should allow as many individuals, as many groups, as many organizations to participate in governance. For example, allowing more and more people to come out. Now, has the government does this in a way? I would say yes. I'll give you example also. How many of you have seen or used My Gov app or portal? Have you seen that or have you used that? Some of you may have used that, some of you may not have used that. If you have not used that, I would advise you to download it on your phone. If you don't want to download that on your phone, at least see the website. At least see the website. So it's a government portal where what the government has done is government has made it a portal to interact with the people. So for example, you can write articles over there, you can discuss things with other people. Government organizes many quizzes also on this portal. You can listen to and you can see draft of many laws that the government will be introducing. So it's a way to interact. I'll give you one more example. Although my drawing is extremely bad, but can you recognize this logo? I hope Gandhiji does not come alive just to scold me. Yeah, you recognize this logo, yeah. Swachh Bharat logo. Swachh Bharat logo, right? How was the Swachh Bharat logo finalized? Swachh Bharat logo was finalized after a competition was held on the MyGov app. So Government of India held a competition where people were asked to submit the entries. The winner was found out, it was rewarded also, and this logo was accepted. Again, an example of how government participated, ensured participation from the people. Similar is the story with rupee symbol. Do you know? Rupee symbol also was a result of a competition that the government had organized. It was a competition from people around the country. They had to submit their entries, and one of them was selected as a winner. Some prize money was also given. Again, example of how government is ensuring participation of the people. Now, why is it important? Basically, the simple idea is when you allow people to participate or when you encourage people to participate, people find themselves more connected with the government. People think, yes, it is my government, I have contributed to it. It is my government, at least listens to me. I'll give you one more example. Uh, Most of you would have been very small, but I am sure all of you would have heard of the Nirbhaya case. Remember? The unfortunate Nirbhaya case that took place in Delhi. Okay. So when the Nirbhaya case happened, those who don't know, it was basically a case of rape of a girl and the girl died. So basically, when the Nirbhaya case happened, people all across the country were out on the streets. Why? Because what happened was in the Nirbhaya case, one of the guys who was involved in the case, one of the convicts, was below 18 years of age, just a few days below 18 years. And the law at that time was if you are not 18, doesn't matter what crime you commit, doesn't matter how many people you kill, you can only get maximum 3 years of punishment, not more than that. Maximum three only. So there were people out on the streets demanding that this should change. So Government of India formed a committee that was called the Justice Verma Committee. The Government of India formed a Justice Verma Committee. The idea of the committee was to reform the laws to make the laws much more stringent. And the Government of India published in most of the newspapers an ad. I still remember the ad. The ad was that this is the email ID of the committee. we are inviting people to mail your suggestions. We are asking people to mail their suggestions. If you want the committee to make a certain type of a law, whatever you think is correct, mail the suggestions. But most people did not. They were happier being on the street rather than actually going ahead and mailing that this is what should be done. I'm not saying they would have changed something or not, but again, this is an example of government allowing the people to participate in governance. Even today, most of the laws that are passed in the parliament, before passing a lot of laws, policies, are published as a draft on the government websites. On my.gov website also, you can see draft of many laws and policies that have not been finalized so far, where you can actually give a feedback and then the government will decide whether to implement that or not. So again, it's an example of participatory governance. Second characteristic of a good government, it is consensus oriented. Now, what do you mean by consensus oriented? See, the idea is simple. Right now, BJP is in the majority in the Lok Sabha. That is why they are running the government. So the bottom line is, if the BJP wants, they can pass any law in the Lok Sabha. It is very obvious. Because they have the majority, you can't stop them from passing a law. But just because you have the majority does not mean that you should not even listen to others. It is a responsibility of the government to at least listen to others, because there is no guarantee that a good idea can come only from the government. No one has the sole right that good ideas can come from me only. Good ideas can come from anywhere. Have you heard of a political thinker called J.S. Mill? You might have heard of him in ethics, or if PSIR is an optional, then you might have heard of him, J.S. Mill. No worries, if you have not heard of him, don't worry. So, J.S. Mill, John Stuart Mill, full name, one of the first guys who talked a lot about freedom of speech and expression. He is regarded as a person who has spoken a lot about freedom of speech and expression. So he very famously says, or said basically, about 200 years ago. So he very famously said that if a country says that we are an advanced country, we're an advanced society, in that society, if one person has a different point of view and everyone else has a different point of view, even then that one person has a right to speak his mind. Only then it is a developed, advanced society. An advanced society is not which has good buildings, good technology. Advanced society or developed society is one where everyone has a right to expression. Even if you are in the minority, even if you are one single person having a different kind of an idea. Imagine if no one listened to Newton. Imagine if no one listened to Einstein. We would not have been in a situation where we are today, right? Because see, for a long time, everyone thought Earth is flat. Imagine the first person who said, "Do you know Earth is round?" And people would have laughed, "Oh, what have you drunk today, man? Don't you know Earth is flat? It's not round." So if you don't allow people in minority to speak, it becomes a problem. It is the responsibility of the government to have a consensus. See, at the end of the day, government is in majority. So they will pass whatever law that they want. It is a law, that is fine. But at least have opposition also bring in their ideas. For example, what is a private member bill? What is a private member bill? Have you heard of it? What do you mean by private member bill? Yes, so basically, private member bill is a bill introduced by a non-minister. Private member is a member who is not a minister. So private member bill is a bill introduced by a non-minister. Usually, it is safe to assume that private member bills are actually opposition bills. Because if BJP, for example, has to introduce a bill, their ministers only will introduce it. So you can assume that private member bills also mean opposition bills only. So far in the history of India, only 14 private member bills have passed. Only 14 in India's entire history. None of the private member bills has been passed in the last 30-40 years. No private member bill has been passed. It's about 4 decades private member bills now don't pass. It's again an indication how whoever comes to power assumes that they are the only ones who know everything, that good ideas can't come from the opposition. For example, Shashi Tharoor has introduced so many private member bills, they don't go anywhere. There are a lot of people in the opposition introducing private member bills, obviously they don't go anywhere because the governments are not consensus oriented. I'll give you two examples from our history so that you can actually understand how we are living in a very different kind of a time as compared to earlier. In fact, I'll give you three examples. First example, when P.V. Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister of India. Now, P.V. Narasimha Rao, India's Prime Minister, was from the Congress. It was the beginning of 1990s. Pakistan was introducing a resolution against India in the UN Human Rights Council. So in the UN Human Rights Commission, they were introducing a council, they were introducing a resolution against India. The idea was that India is violating the human rights of people in Jammu and Kashmir. And Pakistan wanted the entire world to go ahead and vote against it or vote in favor of it, in favor of Pakistan, basically. So what happened was Pakistan was able to get support of a lot of countries. Most of the countries, Western world, was in favor of Pakistan, that okay, we will support the bill. P.V. Narasimha Rao, who was the Prime Minister of India, what did he do? He chose a person in India to go to all the major countries around the world, convince them not to vote for the bill. Who did he choose? He chose Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Who was Atal Bihari Vajpayee? He was a leader of the opposition. He was leader of the opposition. So a Congress Prime Minister choosing a BJP leader, asking him to go and convince other countries on behalf of our government. He accepted it. He went, he did a great job. He was successful in making sure that the resolution does not pass. Can you imagine today? Can you imagine today someone from the government sending a Congress leader around the world to talk about what India's policy is? Can you even imagine that? You can't even imagine that happening today. There is no law to prevent that, but it will not happen. Because over the past couple of decades or so, especially since 1990s, we have become a very non-consensus oriented government. I'll give you one more example. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was suffering from, I think, a kidney disease, or there was some big problem that he had, kidney issue, etc. It was a disease which treatment required a lot of money. At that time, members of parliament did not have that high of a salary. So he could not afford to go, or he could not really go anywhere. Rajiv Gandhi, who was the prime minister, he said that you don't worry about that. Government is sending a delegation to US. So Rajiv Gandhi was sending a delegation to US of IAS officers to talk about trade, etc. He said, I will make you part of the delegation. You go, and on paper we will show that you fell sick, so you had to be treated in America, so you will be getting the treatment. Government will afford the treatment. And the government did get the treatment for him. Again, an example of how the two sides can work together. But now the situation has really changed drastically. Again, it doesn't mean that the government should not listen or should not do what they want to. At the end of the day, government has the majority. So they will pass whatever bills that they want. But at least keeping a door open for good ideas is always good. Then, accountability. We just discussed about this. Government of India, doesn't matter which party is in power. India has faced very tough situations, multiple wars. We have faced famine. We have faced riots. We have faced emergency. We have faced lockdowns, corona. You have never seen any government coming out and saying, sorry, we were mistaken or we were wrong. No. Every government says we are the best government ever. So if every government is the best government ever, why are we not the best country ever? Something should have happened, right? If we still have the problem of poverty, if we still have problem of illiteracy, if we still have problem of corruption, then there has to be some problem in between. But no one has ever accepted. The government has to be more transparent. We did have an entire discussion about it with RTI. We discussed how governments try to hide information despite giving out or despite the RTI law, etc. Another characteristic of good governance, government should be responsive. Responsive means a government should respond to the demands of the people. Either way, if the people want something or if the people don't want something. The Lokpal bill, how it was introduced, was an example of how government responded to the people. The farm bills being taken back, again, an example of how the government responded to what people were demanding. Responsive means the government should realize that people elected them and to run by the wishes of the people is the responsibility of the government of India. So government has to be responsive to the demands of the people. Then the government should be effective and efficient. Mahatma Gandhi gave a very good concept, a concept that we anyways know it's not that it's the original concept, but he talked about some things called trusteeship, government as a trustee. Have you read about Mahatma Gandhi's concept of trusteeship? Ever heard about this? Okay, those who don't know, don't worry. Now listen to this very carefully. Remember when we used to be in school or in college also? School has trustees, college has trustees. Remember? Trustee of the school, trustee of the college. Who is a trustee? Trustee is a person who does not own the organization, someone who is just running the organization for some time, and then they will pass it on to someone else, and they'll pass it on to someone else. That's the idea of a trustee who is running the organization for some time. As per Mahatma Gandhi, whoever is in power, whoever is running the government, must always remember they are not the owners of the government. They are the trustees of the government. The example that I gave you yesterday. What happened in case of Imran Khan? What happened in case of many other governments that have economic crisis? Government starts spending the money as if they never have to give it back. Government starts spending money because they think, oh, we only live once for 5 years. Let's enjoy. Let the next government suffer. When you have this kind of a thinking that you spend money because it is not your hard-earned money, you want to empty all the government accounts because you think you are only living once for 5 years, that is when the government becomes ineffective and inefficient. Effective and efficient means the government should spend resources of the public knowing fully well that the resources are not unlimited. The government should spend the money and the resources with utmost efficiency. Remember, we discussed about the efficiency audit that the CAG does. If government can get something at a cheaper price, they should try for that rather than paying a high amount of money. Then, the government should also be equitable and inclusive. What do you mean by equitable? Equitable does not mean that everyone should get equal things from the government. That is not what equitable is. Equitable means everyone should get what they need from the government. Someone may need more, someone may need less. The simple idea, for example, if I earn 80,000 rupees in a month and someone else earns 800 rupees in a month, government should give him or her free ration, not me. I don't need that free ration, but he might need the free ration. So government should ensure that the fruits of development, the help that people need, are fairly distributed amongst the people. It should be equitable in the society. And the society should be more inclusive. Let's take an example of inclusive. Let's do this exercise. Please don't Google, okay? Don't Google it. You have to tell me in the central government, can you tell me name of women ministers apart from Nirmala Sitharaman and Smriti Irani? In the central government, name the women ministers apart from Smriti Irani and Nirmala Sitharaman. Don't Google it. And the central government only, not your state governments. Just think about it. Think about it and think about how many do you know. If you know one, great, think of others. How many do you know? Think about it. You would not really be able to know. Okay, I'll not take anyone's name, but I'll tell you some of the responses that I'm getting. I'm getting Priyanka Gandhi. I'm getting Jaya Bachchan. I'm getting Draupadi Murmu. I'm getting a response Sushma Swaraj. I'm getting Meera Kumari. Getting a lot of very interesting responses. These are not correct responses. At least don't take names of people who are not even living right now. I asked, and I'm getting Indira Gandhi also, Hema Malini also. Let's stick to people who are alive and who are a part of the government, who are ministers. Again, you understand the drill. Of all the ministers that we have in the central government, again, don't give me your state ministers. Don't give me ministers of Delhi. Don't give me ministers of other places. So now think, let's say you know one, or let's say you know two people. Great. Can you name others? Out of all the ministers that we have, how many of them are women? You can count on one hand. How many are women? You can count on one single hand. That indicates us that the government may not be that inclusive. And this is not just with this government. Also, I'm just talking about the gender now. I'm not even going deeper. How many of ministers are physically disabled? How many of the ministers are transgenders? You will not find anyone. When the government is not inclusive enough, it will show in the policy making. Not just the government. Look at the Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha, out of 543 members, does not even have 80 women members of parliament. And right now, population of women MPs in Lok Sabha is the highest ever. And even that is not 80 out of 543. Rajya Sabha even lower. So when the governments are not inclusive enough, when they are not including more people, that will result in policies being one-sided. Other extremely important part of having a good governance is the rule of law. Now, what exactly do you mean by the rule of law? Let's try and understand this. I'll give you example of a few cases and listen to this very carefully with patience. There was a case that happened in Hyderabad a few years back. The case was there was a lady doctor who was raped and then burnt to death. Few people were arrested. After arrest, after a few days, they were encountered. Police killed them. Police said that they were escaping. We had taken them to the spot of the incident and they tried to escape and we killed them. Fine. What was the reaction of the public? The people's reaction was police was appreciated. Everyone liked the police action. Everyone said police did the right thing, etc., etc. Fine. Let's come to the second case. Gangster in Uttar Pradesh. He killed many policemen, ran away. Police caught him in Madhya Pradesh. They were bringing him back to UP. On the way, again encountered. What happened? People said police did the great thing, did the right thing. Perfect, fine. Now let's come to the third case. Third case, in a small town in UP, two Dalit girls raped and killed. Police did not even give the body back to the family members. The police did the last rites. They took care of the body. They did not even allow the family members to even see the bodies. Now let's understand these three cases one by one. If in the first two cases you supported the police, then you have no right to criticize the police in the third case. Because in all these three, the police did not follow the law. As simple as that. If in the first two cases you allowed the police to deliver instant justice, that no, we will do instant justice, then in the third case also, you cannot say anything wrong about the police, because in the first two instances, if you did not stop them, you gave them an impression that whatever you're doing is right, do it. So they did the same in the third case, whatever they thought was right. You may not like a law. If you don't like a law, then change the law. But in a society, you cannot have a situation where you're not following the rule of law. There is a purpose for having the law. There is a purpose why a country runs on laws. If you don't like the law, then change the law. You can't have a situation where people randomly decide what is right in a situation, what is wrong in a situation. The government does not have, or the police, in fact, does not have the authority to decide or to have instant justice. It is the job of the judiciary to decide who is guilty and who is not guilty. Have you heard of a thing called Matsya Nyay? Have you heard of this word, Matsya Nyay? Matsya Nyay, basically, it's a Sanskrit word. It means law of the sea. It means law of the sea. What do you mean by law of the sea? Law of the sea means there will always be a bigger fish that will eat the smaller fish. There is no law that works. If there's a small fish, there will always be a bigger fish after that that will eat that fish. There is no law that works, there is no protection. Do you want that kind of a society? No. In a society, you do not expect that you're walking on the road and you don't even have the protection of the law. You walk on the road with confidence because you know that there is a law in place. That is why people don't commit crimes as often. And when you don't follow the rule of the law, this is a situation that you will end up in. I am not saying who was guilty, who was not guilty in any of the cases. The only thing I am saying is police does not decide who is guilty, who is not. If the police decides it, then what is the need of the judiciary? Disband in the judiciary. Why are you giving all this salary to judges? Let's disband in the courts. If you have a rule of a law, you have to follow the rule of the law. You might not like it, it's fine. But if you don't like the law, then change the law. Don't break the law. There's a difference between the two. If the government does not like the law, if they think the judiciary is not doing the good job, if you need to have fast track court, then do it. And if you really want the police only to take this action, then write in the law that police has the right to kill people. Then it's fine. There's no issue with that. Absolutely fine. This is a big issue. That is why a rule of law also is a indicator of how the government has to work. Again, not saying that the rule of law will make you happy, because mostly instant justice makes people happy. But at the end of the day, unless you follow rule of the law, you are not living in an advanced civilized society. You are living in a society where anyone can do anything. That is where the problem now starts. All these are components or characteristics of how a good government is expected to be and how a good government is expected to behave. Now, when the Modi government came to power in 2014, Satyam, they are the same, you can use any of the two. When the Modi government came to power in 2014, they gave a pretty interesting slogan that they keep on giving even today. The slogan they gave was minimum government, maximum governance. The idea was that we should, or government should, reduce the size of the government. Reduce the size of the government, but at the same time increase efficiency. Increase efficiency of the government. Has it happened? Not really. It is improving drastically, but even today, you do not have a situation where you can say the size of the government has reduced. Reducing the size of the government simply means there will not be so many levels where a file has to pass from one place to the other place to the third place. I'll give you an example. If you have to open up a manufacturing factory, if you have to manufacture something, open up a big factory, there are so many permissions that you require. Permissions from labor department, permission from environment ministry, you're not harming the environment, permission from corporate affairs ministry, permissions from so many other departments are required. Now the problem is when you go ahead and you randomly start making different demands at different levels to sign on a file, that makes people's life or doing business that much more difficult. having lesser powers, not lesser powers definitely, but having lesser bureaucracy is in the interest of everyone. For example, you have to reduce discretionary powers. Now, what do you mean by discretionary powers? Let me give you a simple example. In India, it is illegal to keep a weapon for ordinary people. Not talking about the armed forces. For ordinary people, you, me, it's illegal to keep a gun. If you want to keep a gun, you have to apply for a license. How do you apply for a license? You go to the DM, you apply for a license with the DM. DM will ask you, why do you need a gun? So you'll have to prove that, see, I have a threat to my life, I am involved with dangerous people, this is my job, etc., etc. On the basis of that, it is the discretion of the DM whether or not the license will be given. Now, when you have something on the discretion of an officer, that becomes a problem, because when you leave something to the discretion, this is where the chances of corruption actually become higher. If any one of you or any of your friends or family own a restaurant, you would know this, what I'm trying to tell you. When you have a restaurant, there is a food inspector that comes in every few months to conduct an inspection of the kitchen and see whether in the kitchen everything is fine or not. Now, when the inspector comes in, inspector has to prepare a report whether or not you're running the kitchen fine in a hygienic manner or not. There are places where it is almost fixed that the inspector will come, he will take 5,000 rupees and he will go, he will prepare a good report. Otherwise, if you don't give him the money, he will not prepare a good report. Because again, you have given discretion to the officer that they will decide on the report. Before 1991, the situation was way worse. Before 1991, India had something called Inspector Raj. Ask your parents about it, they'll tell you. We had Inspector Raj in India before 1991. Inspector Raj means they were inspectors for everything. Even if you had a small shop, small ration shop, there will be inspection for everything. Inspector will come, inspector will see whether you are doing the right thing or not, prepare a report. On the basis of that report only can you continue to operate your shop. If the inspector thinks you are not doing it properly, then they will shut down your shop. So there was an inspector for everything. There was Inspector Raj, there was License Raj. License Raj means license for everything. Inspector Raj means inspector for every single thing to conduct inspections. When you give so much discretionary powers to any officer, you are allowing a lot more corruption to handle. When you are doing this something with the help of machines, the chances of corruption obviously come down. Another suggestion for having better governance is to do away with obsolete laws. Obsolete means very old, outdated. So laws that are outdated. We still have a lot of outdated laws. Remember, we just discussed about the Official Secret Act in the first class. You all have read about sedition. All these are old, obsolete laws. Again, allowing a lot of powers to the investigative agencies to arrest or harass a person. We also have to set up appropriate accountability mechanism. Accountability mechanism means, again, if some officer is held guilty, if their decision has led to wrong consequences, how will they be punished? How will they be answerable to this? In bureaucracy right now, we do not really have any accountability mechanism. If there's a senior official, he did or she did something wrong, there is not much of a punishment, not much of answers that they have to give. Another point, another suggestion is bureaucracy should focus on goals as opposed to rules. Now, this is a problematic situation. This is a very debatable situation. You can say that the end goal has to be benefit of the people. Don't get stuck up on the rules. But the problem is, and I've told you earlier as well, when the judiciary or when bureaucracy is not following the rules, they're always under threat because someone later on will file a case against them. So you can't expect only the bureaucracy to focus on the goals, forget about the rules. everyone else has to support them in that. If the judiciary starts supporting the bureaucracy, for example, the judiciary says tomorrow, if there's a case that comes in, we will see if the bureaucrat was able to achieve the goal of welfare of the people. If yes, we will not punish the bureaucrat. Then it is fine. Then you can expect the bureaucrats to do better. But just by asking the bureaucrats to focus on the goals and not the rules, but not helping the bureaucrat do that, that is unfair to the bureaucrat. So this is not something that the bureaucracy alone can do. Judiciary, government, activists, all of them have to support them. The bureaucracy has to be an effective facilitator. Facilitator means someone who supports, someone who encourages you. Let's take a simple example. So right now, many states are making it much easier to do business in India, open startups in India. I know the example of Telangana, but I am sure many other states are also doing this. In Telangana, for example, if you now have to start a business, you don't have to take any permission. You can just start a business. Government will assume that you have every paperwork on completed. The government will later on come and have an inspection and everything is fine. But it's not that you have to initially get all the paperwork. And I'm sure many other states are also doing this. Bureaucracy has to be an effective facilitator. I remember, and this is about, I think, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, I still remember, a friend of mine lived in Chicago. And we were having this Zoom call or Skype call at that time. And we were talking about this, that it is so easy for him in US to open up a company as compared to in India at that point of time. If you had to open up a company, you had to go to government office, take permission, etc. So in Chicago, for example, he showed me all sitting online. Just open up a government portal, fill in all the details. Within 30 minutes, 30, you get a mail from the government that your company is set up, you're good to go, start working. So again, that is a big difference as compare if you compare that with a developing countries such as India. Over here in India, the problem is having hurdles is seen by people as an opportunity to earn money. See, the idea is simple. When someone wants to earn money, black money, or let's say bureaucracy, someone in the government wants to earn a bribe, how will they earn a bribe if everything is so simple and easy for the people? You pay a bribe so that the situation becomes easier for you. If it is very easy to get a license, you will never pay a bribe. If it is very easy to get government permission, you will never pay a bribe, right? You pay a bribe because the process is difficult. If the process becomes easy tomorrow, no one will pay a bribe to the bureaucrats, no one will pay a bribe to the public servants. That is where the problem lies. That how can you expect the bureaucrats to make the process easier? Because this is the process that they use to earn that extra money. So, ideally, bureaucracy should be facilitating people's progress. Ideally, bureaucracy should be a facilitator for us. But bureaucracy has also had or has also made many hurdles. This also remains a problem, and that is why, although we are trying to follow this logo or this slogan of minimum government, maximum governance, but this is a continuous journey. You can improve day by day. Situation is improving. A lot of these things are becoming online. For a lot of these permissions, now you don't have to go on and have so many rounds of the government office. It is becoming better. But there is still a long, long, long way to go before we go ahead and have changes on the ground. A part of governance is something called e-governance. E-governance, as the name suggests, use of technology by the government to make the lives of the people easier. That is, in simple terms, e-governance. In answers for e-governance, you are expected to give examples, which we will be discussing. You are expected to give problem statements, and you're expected to give solutions. These are usually the kind of questions that we get in e-governance, and I will show you also how every alternate year at least you expect at least one question from e-governance. There are a lot of things that have happened, and all of you would realize that e-governance is a part of our lives. It has made our lives much, much, much better. For example, Just a few years back, it's not about many years back, just a few years back, I remember when I was a kid, the parents used to go to pay the electricity bill. If I used to go with them, you have to stand in that queue, 50 people ahead of you, stand for a couple of hours. When your time comes, when you go to the window, they will say, oh, lunch, come back after 1 hour. Then you come back after 1 hour. Then they'll tell you, oh, you did not pay the last bill. So you say, no, no, we have paid the last bill. They will ask you for the receipt. Then you go home. Everyone in the entire country has that transparent pouch where our parents have kept all the receipts of everything, bank passbooks, LIC receipts, electricity bill receipts. You take out the receipt and you again go. Basically, paying the electricity bill was a affair of multiple hours. You had to take out an entire day just to pay the bill and then save all these receipts with you because you never know when the government would require that. Compare that with today. Who today goes to electricity department to pay a bill? No, you pay it online. You pay it. There are several apps that allow you to do that. You pay it at any point of the day. At 1 a.m. in the night, you remember, you pay the bill. Not like 9 to 5. Remember earlier, not just 9 to 5. So, for example, if your parents are working, they have Sunday off. But on Sunday, electricity department will also be off. So when do you pay the bill? So you have to take an off from the job just to pay the bill. Compare that to the situation that we are in right now. We are in a situation where you pay the bill on any day that you want, any time that you want. We take these things for granted. But this is a change that has happened, and it's a prime example of e-governance. It's a prime example of how the government has made the lives of the people better with the use of technology. It all started, that is, the government of India started focusing in this field in 1970. In 1970, for the first time, the government established something called the Department of Electronics to help focus in this regard. Later on, National Informatics Center was set up. Have you noticed how in a lot of cities or in a lot of government websites, their domain name is .nic extension, government website .nic. Have you noticed this? Although now it is being replaced by .gov, but even now you will see, for example, I think CBC website, NCRT website, you will see .nic. That NIC is this, National Informatics Center. That is NIC. So this National Informatics Center in 1977 was launched. The idea was simple, that they would look into all the government websites, they would work in this regard, make websites, make portals. Even today, they maintain all of this. Their aim, why they were first established, the department was first established to computerize all district offices in the country. So district offices are those offices in your district which have record of, let's say, a birth certificate, name changing certificate, death certificate in some cases, other kind of certificate that you require. All those are in physical form. So to computerize all of them, again, the responsibility is of the NIC, National Informatics Center. Tell me one thing. When our Prime Minister, for example, has an online meeting with Xi Jinping or Vladimir Putin, do you think he's using Jio or Airtel or Vodafone Idea? What network would they be using? What do you think? Or would their network also be like ours only? That they will call and say, oh, sir, the network is off. There was a truck going on and the truck cut the broadband wire. The broadband will come after 5 hours. Do you think it will happen to them also? What do you think? Many people are saying BSNL. Do you think really they will be using BSNL? Okay. You have too much faith in the ability of BSNL, I think. They're using BSNL, okay. They are not using BSNL. They are not using Jio. They are not using anything. What are they using? So government has their own network. The government has their own network. This is called NIC net, which the government did not share with you. I'm sorry to say. Government does not love you enough. So government has their own network, which is not something that people use, people cannot use it. It is National Satellite Based Computer Network, especially for the government offices. This is NICNET. It has connectivity across the country, especially for the government. It has speeds upwards of 10 Gbps because the government cannot afford its communication to be compromised, right? For example, this might shock you. Just a second, guys. Yeah, sorry for that. Sorry for the interruption. So, this might shock you, but whatever you search on the internet, your internet service provider knows. Trust me. So, guys, if you're thinking that your internet search history is known only to you, that is not true. So, your internet service provider can know anything that you're doing online. So, obviously, the government does not want that to happen, right? The government is working in an environment where they cannot afford their communication to be shared or to be intercepted by anyone. So that is why they have their own network. All that indicates how government has been working in this regard for a very, very long time. Priyanka, NIC net means NIC network. NIC is National Informatics Center. So NIC network is NIC net. Now, there are some obvious advantages of e-governance. There are obvious advantages of using technology in governance. First obvious advantage, reduces the delay in file processing and movement. Earlier, when you used to file or when you used to send any file to a government department, it had to be physically taken from one place to the other place. But now, with online, everything is done instantly. Rather than you waiting for letter to go from one place to the other place, it's all instantaneous. And obviously, it saves a lot of time. It reduces the delay. You cannot say, oh, I did not have the file is in that department, this department. Everything can be done instantaneously right now. Then multiple backups are kept and the risk of data loss is much, much, much lesser. The example that I gave you earlier, government offices having thousands of files, one over the other, that situation now does not arise, at least should not arise with the use of technology. When you save your data at multiple places, multiple servers, the risk of losing all that data is very, very low. That allows you to be much more secure. It also leads to much lesser paperwork. Imagine a government office having thousands and thousands of files. All those files can be stored in this small pen drive. Just imagine the amount of space that is saved. Just imagine the amount of paperwork that will be saved. Just imagine how it will result in the government processes being much, much more efficient. It also results in cost cutting. Now, this cost cutting part you have to understand. See, when you go ahead and introduce new technology, in the initial phase, the cost will always be high. Initially, the cost will increase. Initially, the cost will increase. Later on, in the long run, the cost will reduce. When the space required is not that high, when you don't require so much paperwork, so many people, then the cost will reduce in the long run. But initially, the cost will increase when you use new technology. Many people don't understand this. When you store all that data on any website or you give all that, let's say you have given all that Aadhaar data to the government, it has to be stored somewhere, right? It's not that data is stored in the air. You might not see it on your computer, you might have uploaded on a drive, etc. But somewhere in some part of the world, there are physical storage spaces, batteries that are running those storage spaces where you are storing all that data. So the data is not just stored in the ground. It is stored somewhere where the server, the storage spaces are required. All that is something that costs a lot of money. You have to maintain that as well. So initially the cost will be high, but in the long run, the cost will come down. Apart from that, it improves service delivery as well. Rather than going to the government asking for services, for example, ask your parents how bad it was when you had to file income tax by going to income tax office. Compare that to filing income tax now. How easy has it become? How much easier it is now? Train tickets. You sit at your home, you book a train ticket. You don't have to go to the railway station just to book the railway ticket. A lot of these things have happened. Not just this. Take an example of COVID. I'm sure all of you would have used the COVID app. COVID was the app that all of us used to book the appointment for the COVID vaccination. Remember? The government said that you have to book the vaccination slot first and then only you can come. Now imagine if we did not have that and the government allowed anyone to come and stand in the line. Just imagine the situation then. That thousands of people just coming in, standing in the line, fighting with each other to get to the vaccine first. Just imagine that situation. So obviously use of technology, use of electronics, use of IT tools has improved the situation considerably. It has facilitated anywhere, anytime government. Again, you don't have to be at one single place. Now it is called location agnostic. Have you heard this phrase? Location agnostic. Have you heard this phrase ever? Location agnostic. Location agnostic means something that does not depend on the location. I'll just write it here. You can use this phrase. Something that does not depend on location. Let's take an example. A lot of you may be watching me right now from big cities. Many of you may be watching me right now from a village. Many of you may be watching me right now from outside India as well. So location now is not really a barrier. Location now has has been bridged because of the use of technology in the private sector also and in the government as well. Again, you are not at your home, you are traveling outside, you have to pay the electricity bill. You don't have to be in your city. You are anywhere, doesn't matter, you just pay the bill from there. You don't have to be there. That means most of the services have become location agnostic. Location is not a barrier now. Wherever you are doesn't really matter. It has reduced transaction cost. For all these things that we are talking about, paying bill, etc., you don't have to go anywhere. You sit at home. Cost of traveling has reduced. You sit at home and engage. It brings much greater transparency. Again, you might not understand the seriousness of this issue, but again, if you ask your parent, they will tell you how serious the issue was. Electricity department will always say that you did not pay the last bill. They always ask for proof from the last receipt that you have to bring in, and you have to save all those receipts. It was such a big headache in everyone's mind that people carried receipts of electricity bill for 2-3 years, because you never know when they will ask for a receipt and they will say you did not pay that bill, you did not pay that bill. So everyone was so worried that what new bill will come up now. And you ask your parent, they will tell you it was very common. Now can you imagine that? All the bills that you pay online, the receipt is automatically stored in your phone, in your memory. You don't really have to do anything. You don't have that kind of a problem there. So that transparency has greatly increased. It has also facilitated greater democratic engagement. Greater democratic engagement means more and more people are taking advantage of government service. More and more people now are becoming equal to others. You don't have a disadvantage, or you don't have that big a disadvantage now if you don't live in the big metro cities. Even if you live in smaller cities, you will have the government resources or the government schemes that are available to you, because all that is becoming online. So all of this is an advantage of e-governance. All of this is advantageous. I'm not saying e-governance does not have its own issues. There are its own set of issues that e-governance faces. But at least these are the advantages that e-governance brings in. Now coming to the problematic part, the challenges in e-governance. Let's start with the biggest challenge, digital divide. Let me ask you a question and answer this question very honestly, okay? Imagine a situation where in your home you have only one mobile phone, only one. Tell me very honestly, what are the chances that your dad will have that mobile phone as compared to your mom having it? What do you think? What are the chances? Only one mobile phone, who will have it, dad or mom? In most of the cases, it would be the dad who would have it, right? I am not even giving you any details about who is working, who is not working. I did not even say it may be that dad is not working, mom is working. It can be anything. But again, the first idea in your mind, and that is true, the first idea is that the dad would have it. What reason? Difficult to define, but dad would have it. This indicates the digital divide. Digital divide is seen amongst genders. Digital divide is seen in rural versus urban. For example, amongst the genders, not all the genders have equal access to technology. As I said, in most of the case, again, there are two things that you have to understand here. For example, someone in the chat is saying, I don't agree with these. Fine. You don't agree with this, absolutely fine. But the problem is, if you think what is happening in your house is what is happening in the country, then you are not right. You can't assume that because I see this in my house, this is happening in the country, right? You have to take a bigger sample size. Are you understanding this? If you see in your house that there is a kind of a relationship between your parents, and to assume that something like this happens all around, that may not be true. So you have to take always a bigger sample size always. Just because, for example, in your household, you don't discriminate against ladies, fine. But that doesn't mean you will assume that it doesn't happen across the entire world. It does happen. So you have to take a bigger sample size than that. You can take one more example. You can take one more example. Again, talk or think of it from a very generic point of view. Your dad coming back home at 10 p.m. versus your mom coming back home at 10 p.m. Who will you ask questions to? Where were you? Were you fine? I was worried about you. Who will you ask more questions to? Just think of it from that point of view, right? What I'm saying is not out of the blue. I'm not saying something that you would never have heard, that you are hearing it for the first time. Oh, something like that also happens. No, it's a very generic thing. So again, there is a gender divide that we have to accept. You can't say there is no gender divide. If you don't see it around you, great, you are living in a very good place. I'm happy for you. But if you actually see, there is a gender divide all around. There is a divide on the basis of rural versus urban also. Yes, the situation in the rural areas is improving. But even today, there are many villages in India which do not have that proper internet connectivity. The government of India is running a project called BharatNet. They are running a project called BharatNet. BharatNet is a project under which they are connecting the entire all the villages in the country with high-speed broadband. But that's a project that has been delayed many years now. It keeps on getting delayed time and time and time again. That means that, see, even the villages are of different types. In some villages, infrastructure is coming up. In some villages which are very far off, you don't have any of this infrastructure. In many villages, you don't even have proper electricity. So how do you expect them to charge mobile phones and laptops and whatever you expect them to have? So there is a big rural versus urban divide, and you cannot deny that. Okay. Vivek is saying, I don't agree with gender divide. See, you don't have to agree with something if it exists. It's like saying, I don't agree that the sun exists. Okay, don't agree. Who's asking you to agree? Don't agree, no problem. I don't agree that someone is real. Don't agree, no problem. But your agreeing or not agreeing does not change the fact. See, that is the problem. Again, I'm telling you, if you don't see something in the household, great. But it's not an assumption that every household is like that. There are crores and crores of household, right? So your agreeing and not agreeing cannot change the reality. That is the big problem, and we have to understand it from a bigger perspective. So there is this problem of the divide that we still see. Gender divide, uh, rural urban divide. There's also a caste divide as well, and you have to see caste divide, the divide on the basis of economic status. And I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example of economic status divide. So when this COVID app was rolled out, and the government of India made it compulsory that in order to have COVID-19 vaccination, you have to first take a appointment on the COVID app. The government forgot the fact that many people in India, crores of people in India, do not have a smartphone. It's not that everyone has a smartphone, right? It's not that everyone has it. So what about those people who don't have a smartphone? You are not allowing them to book a appointment through the COVID app. It was only later on that the government changed that rule, said, okay, you can come in without that also. So there is still a problem of this digital divide that has not been resolved. Then there is another problem of the digital trust. See, to explain digital trust to you, I'm going to tell you a personal story. If you promise you're not going to tell anyone from my family. So don't tell anyone from my family because this is a story from my family. So I'll tell you what happened. So basically, let's assume. So this is my mom's sister, her husband. This is the person I'm talking about. Whatever you call him in your language, Mosaji, or whatever you want to call him in your language, whatever you call it. So this is the person I'm talking about. So this person in his entire life had only one job. One job means his first job was the same and his last job was the same. So his first job was in a bank, started from a very low level, entire career was in the same bank, retired, I think 5 years back, at a very senior position, basically with a lot of hard work, got promotion. So got retired at a very, very senior level, a well-known bank. Now this person worked all his life in a bank. Even today, when he orders something online, he will only order cash on delivery. Why? He does not trust digital payment. He says, what if my money gets stuck? Where will I go? I don't trust all these cards and all. Where will I go? This is all true. If he is ordering and something is not available cash on delivery, he will call me or my brother and he'll ask us, can you place an order? I will transfer money to your account. You place an order from your card. If he has to transfer 5,000 rupees to someone's account, do you know how he does that? He goes to ATM, he withdraws 5,000 cash, then he goes to that bank, he goes to the bank window, gives them 5,000 cash, asks them to deposit in this account number. I'm talking about a person living in a big city, working all his life in a bank, retired from that, and the amount of trust that he has in this digital system. Again, maybe, so I am not saying that he's wrong, but it does seem something like that. So let's not get there. So there is an issue of this digital trust that is still missing, and there are reasons for that. See, you cannot deny that there are scam and scamsters out there. You cannot deny that. It is a reality. You see it all around. But then to say that you will not embrace technology because something like this is happening, rather than being careful, if you're not actually going ahead and embracing technology, you are actually hurting your own future. This is also a big problem. There is a problem of this digital trust. Many people are still not comfortable doing transactions online, making accounts online. For example, most of your parents, I'm very sure, most of your parents would not understand this idea that how can you back up all your data in Google Drive and then you change your phone. There's not a problem. You put a new phone, you download your Google account, contacts again come back. There was a time when you have to note down all your phone numbers, and then you had a new phone, you had to again input all your phone numbers. So again, that's a very recent occurrence. The generation that is above us would not really have so much trust in these new technologies coming up. Thankfully, with the new generation, that is changing. Thankfully, these new things that are coming up, the newer generation is changing that. But again, we still have a lot of people in an age group where they would not really trust this technology so much. Second big problem, proper work plan development. What does it mean? A prime example of this is BharatNet. So BharatNet was a project that the government started. First idea was to cover most of the villages in India with high-speed broadband. Then they announced, the government announced, now we will be covering all the villages in India, and they increase the timeline of the project. But the project keeps on getting delayed. Yes, there was COVID in between, but even then, the speed at which infrastructure is being built is still lagging behind. For a country of India's size to migrate to newer technology, to have new infrastructure, you need to have much higher speed of development in infrastructure. There's also a problem of narrow vision. Now, what do you mean by narrow vision problem? Let's try and understand this very carefully. See, it is good that we have been using technology. A lot of services are available online. But the problem is there is no groundbreaking service that has really changed our life. I'll give you an example. For example, many countries now use technology to even have online voting. But in India, we don't have any plans about that. So rather than making big plans for the future, that this is how technology will change everything, India has usually not been a country where we have had grand plans in terms of technology. There are some very good examples. No one can deny examples such as the UPI. UPI is a fine example of a grand vision turning into a reality. But in many other ways, you will see this online voting thing. And for most of the government service, you still have to go. I'll give you one more example. If you have a passport, or if you have applied for a passport, or if you have, let's say, uh, made some changes in the passport, you can take passport appointment online, fine. But eventually, you will have to go to the passport office. They will not just allow you to do it from the home. So there is still a lot of scope that is remaining for achieving much bigger things with technology, which we have not been able to do. You cannot blame the government for that, because India's problem is that the scale of population that we have in India, it's not easy to replicate any scheme. The problem with India is you cannot say, oh, that scheme is running in that country, let us also have it. But the problem is you cannot replicate that because the size and the scale that India has. The only other country of India's size and scale is China. But China is a different country altogether. We can't even compare. They are not even democracy properly. So we can't have that. So you can't say if a system is running in a smaller country, it will essentially work in India. That is why India's speed will always be much slower. It's a simple example. You cannot expect that a rabbit and an elephant will run at the same speed. If they do, then elephant will be very dangerous, by the way. But you can't expect them to run at the same speed. An elephant will take time, much larger scale, much larger body. It will take time to move. So problem of narrow vision exists, but it will take a long time to now apply this technology to a much larger scale. Inadequacy of government process re-engineering. What does it mean? Tell me honestly, if I show you two websites without telling you which one is government, which one is private, would you be able to identify which is government website, which is private website? Can you identify? I will not tell you the name. I'll just show the website. Mostly you will be able to. Not talk about domain name, and not domain name. Just the design part. I'll give you an example. Go to UPSC website and see how the website looks, and you will see the design of private websites. So again, the government website, the government engineering processes, the government tech process, etc., it still needs to improve quite considerably. The government still needs to work. And again, this is not just Indian government. This is not just Indian government. Have you heard of something called Obamacare? Have you heard of this? Or official name is Affordable Care Act. Have you heard of this? Obamacare Affordable Care Act. Okay. Okay. Those who don't know, okay, don't worry. If you don't know, I'll tell you. So basically, when Barack Obama was the American president, he introduced a big law and it became very famous that he wanted to give medical health insurance to everyone in the country. So that this was a very big act. Many people opposed it, but he finally passed the law. I'm not asking you to read the law, because Barack Obama passed it. It was called Obamacare. The official name of the law was Affordable Care Act. So when this was passed, there was a lot of celebration in the American government, etc. And when the website was launched, website got tanked. Website got, basically it got, whatever bad word you want to use, it got tanked, it got broken within a few minutes, and people were just not able to log in. Yes, crashed, bummed, whatever you want to. It was just the government of America, the most powerful government in the world, the richest government in the world, was not able to run a proper website. And it became such a big joke in America that if the government's healthcare website is not working, how can they expect people to get their healthcare in America? It became such a big joke. Even today, it's a joke in America that healthcare comes second. First, let's fix our websites. So it's not just in India that the government processes need to be better. It's nations around the world. Even the most developed nations have these challenges of government not being able to do that. Now, there are some other key areas of challenge that I want to discuss. First, economic challenges. Second, social challenges. And third, technical challenges. Economic challenges, I told you earlier also. Initial cost is always high. You set up any new technology, initial cost will always be high. You set up all that infrastructure, you set up all those servers. Not just this, what we don't realize is all these huge servers where information is stored, they also require maintenance. Maintenance is not that cheap. You have to require maintenance for that. Make sure that they are all safe and secure. All that remains a problem. It does require a lot of cost involved in that as well. The government has to hire experts, pay them the money to build all this infrastructure, pay them good money, because in private sector they will get good money. The government has to make them work for them. Government has to match their salary, etc. Then there are some social issues which we usually ignore. One social issue, as we discussed, was the gender and rural-urban divide that we discussed. Other two big issues that we usually don't discuss. One, language issue. Go to any central government website. Most central government websites will open up in English. They will just give you an option to switch to Hindi. That's it. So Hindi or English. If you don't know one of these two languages, you will not be able to use a central government website. There are so many people in India which don't know any of these two languages. Many websites don't even give an option to switch to Hindi. It's only English. When you go to a state government website, they will have mostly English and their state language and no other language. Now, again, this is an example of how India's problems are very unique in that sense. No other country would have this problem that, oh, we have so many languages, man, what do we do? How do we make websites? But India's problems are unique in that sense, that we have to solve for this issue as well. So many different languages, so many different dialects. Everyone should be able to get that information. How do you ensure that? Second problem that we have is, or third problem is usability. Not everyone is very familiar with using these smart devices. So this happened last night. I'm not even kidding. This happened last night. My mom called me. My mom lives in a different city. So my mom called me. She was not able to connect her wireless Bluetooth earphone to her phone for some reason. And I tried to explain this to her on the phone, on the video call. It took us good 15 minutes to get that resolved. She even said, oh, let it be. Let's forget about it. I'll just do something else. But I said, no. I will do this. Let's do this. So it took 15-20 minutes just to get it resolved. There was some issue with the Bluetooth connection. It was not connecting. So again, it looks like a small, short, simple example. But the problem is, look at the people in the generation above us. Not all of them may be very familiar with using technology. Not all of them would know how to use machines, laptops, computers, etc. And if you don't know that, how do you then expect them to take the help of these government services? Because at the end of the day, if you're making the government services online, you should have to ensure that they can use this technology, right? If they can't use this technology, if they don't know how to operate these kind of devices, then what is the use of offering all these government services? That is also a big issue. Because see, in schools and colleges, these things are never taught to us. It is assumed that people will always learn by themselves how to use these devices, etc. No one teaches you how to use these devices. That still remains a problem. Then there's a technical issue that many people forget about. First, and the biggest issue, security. Cyber threats are increasing day by day. We just saw the attack on Ames few months back, where Ames database was under danger. We see even the most developed countries under attack. We see in America, one of their biggest oil companies was under attack by some hackers. They demanded payment in bitcoins. In India also, there has been so many different issues. For example, in India, when the COVID-19 crisis was going on, in Mumbai, at the peak of COVID-19 crisis, in Mumbai, there was a power blackout. Do you know the entire city of Mumbai? There was no power all of a sudden. That was a time that all the government hospitals were filled. All the government hospitals were running generators, oxygen. At that time, the government said it is because of a failure of electricity grid. But later on, it was found out it was Chinese hackers that had hacked into the system. It was a time that Galwan Valley clashes were going on. So it was a kind of a warning sent by China to India. In fact, China right now has proper hackers which are a part of the Chinese army, and their entire job is to hack into different country systems. So the more info that you store online, the more info that you share online, the more dangerous and the bigger security threat it becomes. That it is liable to get hacked by someone. Someone can get into it, someone can misuse that information, and that still has not been resolved. Similar is the case issue with privacy, how your data is used or misused. You all know the recent issue of the COVID data hack, the COVID app that gets all the data, got all our data due to we booking an appointment. Its data got leaked on a Telegram channel. In some Telegram channel, people were sharing that data. Because right now, getting data of people is considered extremely lucrative, extremely important for the companies. These are issues that have still not been resolved. Because, see, the problem is hackers and all these people who want to harm the government systems, they always stay one step ahead of the government. And the government has to invest a lot of money to get that infrastructure set up. Government has done something. For example, we have something called CERT in. You might have heard of it. What does CERT stand for? What does CERT stand for? It is Computer Emergency Response Team. It is Computer Emergency Response Team. It works under Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. This is the agency, that is a CERT in agency, is responsible for ensuring that if there is any cyber attack on government organization and even in the private sector, even the corporates, etc., if there's a cyber threat, they are the first team to respond. They are the ones who take care of it. Not just this, they are the ones who suggest to the government and who suggest for private sector as well how to keep your information safe, how to make sure that you are not under the threat. All these are issues that are still related to e-governance and they have not been resolved so far. All these are issues that still remain at our hand. Some other challenges before we take a break. Other problem is e-governance in India is still largely about information dissemination. Dissemination means spreading. Again, the same problem of narrow vision. Rather than making some groundbreaking changes with the help of technology, Indian government is still using technology mostly to give information to the people, like the MyGov portal, Covin, etc. It's mostly about information sharing rather than actually doing something out of the blue. I'll give you a simple example. Okay, I'll give you an example. So in India, if you have to make a driving license, ultimately you have to go to the RTO to give a driving license test. You have to drive a car or a bike, whichever license you're applying for, pass this test, and then you get the license. In many American states, what happens is you apply for a license, they have a software which is a driving simulator. You don't even have to come to the RTO. With that software, as a driving simulator, you can drive a virtual car sitting anywhere, and based on that report, you will or will not get the license. So, that again is an example of where and how technology can make a real difference. Online voting, as I said earlier, where technology can make a hell lot of a difference. So, we are not at that stage right now. We are still mostly using technology for information spreading, information sharing, etc. And we need to make a lot more emphatic and effective use of technology. Other problem, corruption check. We have been able to check on corruption, but it has been less as compared to what we had expected. We expected the corruption, etc., will come down, but even today, you have a situation where there are still a lot of government services where you will have to go at the end of the day. There are still issues that are involved. We still do not have as much transparency because, see, it's an ongoing process. You can never have one day that you wake up in the morning and say, today India is corruption free. That is not how it works. It's an ongoing process. So, the more services that are coming online, the more issues of corruption will come down, the more transparency will increase. It's a gradual process that will happen from here till every single day we move an inch forward. Last and the biggest issue, e-governance is seen as a panacea for all ills. Panacea means the solution, the remedy, the medicine. So what people believe is, just like 10 years ago, people thought Lokpal is a solution to all of India's problems. Bring Lokpal and everything will be fine. Similarly, today, many people believe e-governance is a solution to all government problems. Poverty, bring e-governance. Education problem, bring e-governance. Health issues, bring e-governance. That is not how it works. If the government doesn't invest enough money in infrastructure development, in education, in skill development, there is no use of e-governance. The same person who is educated will use internet to gain more knowledge. The same person who is uneducated will use that same internet for doing something entirely different rather than gaining knowledge. Both of them have access to the same internet, but two people will use the same internet in a very different manner, right? Because of their upbringing, because of their education, they are not the same. Similarly, with e-governance also, you cannot expect that this is the solution to each and every problem that we are facing. There are other issues that the government still has to solve. There are issues of not enough investment, not enough focus on education, etc. Those have still not been solved so far. Before we start here, let me quickly take up a few questions that have been asked and then we'll take a break. Uh, a question from Nikhil. Nikhil is saying, what is the way forward for reducing discretionary powers? Nikhil, more the use of technology is, the better it becomes. Discretionary power is when someone themselves decide whether something will happen or not. The more you let a machine decide something, the better it is. The more that you have proper processes, that this is a process to be followed. If it is fulfilled, then yes, otherwise no. That always brings out the corruption, the discretion part, that removes the discretion part. Manoj has a question. When PM goes to foreign, who are the officers who are decided to deal with many other projects like US present? Manoj, it is all the discretion of the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister handpicks the officer, the Prime Minister handpicks who does he want to take, who does he not want to take. Usually, when a Prime Minister to Prime Minister or a Prime Minister to President meeting happens, before that, there are a lot of meetings that have already happened in the background. For example, there are a lot of talks about India will be able to buy Predator drones from the US. So it's not that now our Prime Minister will go and start the negotiation. When these talks are happening, that means we have already almost finalized the deal. The Prime Minister will just go and have the signature. So, which ministers or which bureaucrats, which experts will go or not go, the government decides. A lot of meetings happen at the background. It's not that only a few meetings are held. Okay, Harshit has a question. I know this is not possible, but if the government bans the fiat money fully and a method of payment comes like UPI as a hypothetical situation, everyone is used to everyone is used to it as fiat, and what will be the effect on corruption, organization, terrorism, etc. See, Harshit, something that is not possible, there is no point of talking about the effect. Removing fiat currency is not possible because ultimately you are stuck somewhere, you don't have your phone with you. What do? You can't transfer it with your mind, right? There will not be any alternative to fiat currency, at least for now. So when something can't happen, there's no point of thinking of its consequences. Anu is saying, please repeat consensus oriented. Anu, consensus oriented means rather than just using their majority every single time to pass a law, government should try to take efforts to take information or bring the opposition also to their side, ask for their point of view, and then decide. Lakshmi Singh, please repeat Matsya Nyaya. Lakshmi, Matsya Nyaya means rule of the sea. Larger fish will always eat the smaller fish. No protection to anyone. No law and order. That is called Matsya Nyaya. There is no law and order. Payal is saying, what is the way to wipe out cyber threat? Payal, the only way is to invest more in technology, invest more in skill development, ensuring that we have more skilled people on our side than the hackers. That is the only way that you can treat with cyber threat. Hemant Singh, do India have any target for achieving 100% e-governance? Hemant, there's nothing called 100% e-governance. It's all a continuous process. There's no target as such. Abhinav was saying, can e-governance lead to job cut? Not really. There are many people who say more technology means lesser jobs, but that is not true. If you said more technology means better jobs, that means everyone should run a bullock cart. Why do we make cars? So with improving technology, you have to change your skill set. It's not that it will lead to end of job. It's just making the lives of the people better. Then I have a question. Meshak is saying sometimes even government websites written this website is not secure. Do you want to continue or skip? What shall we do in that case? Meshak, then I would say skip. Don't continue. That is what my suggestion is. Uh, then I have a question from Yashwant. What is the problem of proper work development? As I said, Yashwant, an example of BharatNet, government scheme, government initiatives for building infrastructure is delayed. Government investment in that project is being delayed. Then, what is the role of AI in governance? Talha is asking. See, AI as a technology is still emerging. AI can be used to make lives of the people better. It depends on how in different government schemes the government wants to use it. It can be used in many cases, healthcare sector, etc., trying to treat people's diseases, even when the doctors are absent, doctors are not present. It can be used in many cases. Anu is saying court proceedings take too much time to solve a case, then instant justice should be right. Why is it wrong? Because Anu, there is a difference between a person who is, let's say, charged with an offense and a person who is a convict. So basically, if you keep killing people without proving that they have done the right thing, tomorrow someone can kill someone that you know on the basically, let's say, doubt that you did something. If you start giving instant justice in a society, then what is the use of having a government at all? Or what is the use of having a judiciary at all? Judiciary's job is to decide whether you are guilty or not. So someone who's not guilty, you can't give instant justice. That is not how society works. Okay, one or two more questions, then we'll go and take a break. Nikhil is saying interoperability is a technical issue that built in such a way so that it can be reused time and time again with some changes in other forms. So you make the basic stuff and then you want to use the same kind of a code at other places also to replicate that, reuse that. That also requires a lot of skills. That also is a big problem, that skill has to be acquired. Vivek, okay, again, the ministers say this time and time again, something called Digital India. We talk about Digital India quite a lot, time and time again, that there should be Digital India, this and that. Now, what do you mean by Digital India? Digital India basically has 9 different pillars. All these together make up what we call today as Digital India. Let's see these one by one. First is broadband highways. What broadband highways means is to have nationwide broadband connectivity. It means nationwide broadband connectivity every single place, be it rural areas, urban areas, everywhere you go, there should be proper 100% broadband connectivity. Now, we are not living in that era where this has been made possible so far. Yes, in rural areas, you will see the internet connectivity is still an issue. The problem is even in the cities. For example, I can give you examples of two big cities where I have lived for a long time. I can tell you in Delhi, proper Delhi, I can tell you areas where you will not find any internet signal in your phone. In Bangalore, I can tell you proper areas within the city where you will not find any internet connection, no internet signal. So again, we are far away from that point where we want to have 100% connectivity, but that is the idea of broadband highways. Then public internet access program. In most public places, ideally, you should have free internet connection if someone requires it. Now, this is being done. For example, you go to Connaught Place in Delhi, you get free internet connection for about 30 minutes or so. Most railway stations in India, in collaboration with Google, for example, provide free internet connection for 30 minutes or so. So that is an example of public internet access program. Public internet access is a sign of developed countries around the world. In most of developed countries, you go to public places, you can use Wi-Fi free of cost. In India also, we are moving towards that. Information for everyone. Information in the form of RTI, information from the government in the form of the government portals that we have. We are moving in that direction. For example, a lot of government portals give you information that you want. Bills can be paid online, the Lokpal portal, the RTI portal, all these are examples of this. Then we have the early harvest program. Now, early harvest program has a lot of different components. For example, one component is using technology from the childhood itself, from the grassroots level. For example, the government is planning to convert a lot of books of children in government schools into e-books. That is an example of early harvest program. So from the very bottom layer onwards, try and bring technology. And this is not just about the children, it is about at the grassroots level. For example, in a lot of government offices, now we have digital attendance. The attendance, remember earlier, in today also in many government departments, people used to go in, sign on the register that I am here, and then they used to go out and the attendance was done. Now what is the case? In most of departments, you have that biometric attendance. You have to put your fingerprint or thumbnail or whatever you want so that your exact time is recorded when you're entering, when you're coming out. So digital attendance, not just this, government employees, for example, earlier they had a very hard time in applying for leaves, applying for any application. Now it has become much easier for the government employees to do that. So all that is a part of early harvest program. early harvest program is a set of government initiatives taken at the grassroots level from the government colleges to the government school, etc. Then another part of Digital India mission is universal access to phones. All of you understand the meaning? Everyone in the entire population should have access to phones, not just phones, but ideally smartphones, so that you can use the government apps, the government services are available for everyone. Then IT for jobs. The government has realized the fact that India has a great potential and strength in exporting the IT talent to even the most developed countries in the world. Thousands and thousands of engineers from Indian IT system go abroad. Look at the companies that are run by Indians right on the technical field. Look at Google, look at Microsoft. It indicates that a lot of IT talent is born in India. So government is focusing more on that. The government has planned that in the next 5 years, 1 crore youth from the rural India would be trained in these IT skills so that they are much more ready for jobs. That is again an example of what government is doing, creating more people who are eligible for these jobs, not just in India, but so that they can go abroad as well. E-Kranti, electronic delivery of services, bringing government services to people's house. For example, again, paying of government bills. That's an example of delivery of services of the government online. Government appointments, permissions that you require from the government, applications, all of these being done online. Then e-governance, the examples that we discussed today. My GOV app. How many of you have used DigiLocker, by the way? Have you used DigiLocker? DigiLocker, again, example of a very good app, very, very useful app. You download it, you have the documents in front of you. If you don't use it, please do use it. It helps, very helpful, especially if you drive around, don't have to carry a license or RC or insurance. It will all be in the soft copy form in DigiLocker. For storing documents, very important and very, very helpful for anyone. Yes, Vivek, it is free, not even 10 rupees. So it is free, it's pretty easy, simple to use. One other thing that the government is focusing a lot on is this: net zero import of electronics. So government is trying to give a push to electronic manufacturing. Now please understand this. Zero import is not the same as net zero import. There is a difference between the two. There's a difference between having zero import and net zero import. Zero import, you are not importing anything. No country in the world can say that we will have zero import of anything today, because every country is dependent on someone else for something or the other. You might have something, some small or big thing, but you have to import something. China also doesn't have zero import. They also import something that they can't make. So zero import can never be the case. You have to have net zero import. Net zero would be when your imports are cancelled by your exports. So if you have, let's say, $100 billion of imports, then you should have $100 billion of export also. So that net becomes zero. That is the idea of the government. So you have to be very careful when writing such things in the exam. Very careful to use the exact words. Writing net zero would be right. Writing zero would be wrong. So please make sure you are very careful with all the words and all the exact meaning of all these words to be used. Now, there are many examples of e-government initiatives. There are many examples that you would know of. I am just giving you a few of these examples here. Again, if you have other examples, please feel free to use those also in your answers. For example, My GOV app, as I said, it is a government platform where you can interact with the government. You can leave your feedback on different laws. I'll show you the portal also. How does it look? DigiLocker app, I would highly advise you, if you're not using it, please download the DigiLocker app. You have to give your Aadhaar number. You can download a lot of your documents there from the government and you can save it. Then we also have something called e-hospital online registration network. What exactly is this? See, There is a difference between government hospitals, how they operate, versus how the private hospitals operate. For example, when you go to a private hospital, you take doctor's appointment beforehand, you can go at the told time, your records will be saved online on their app, etc. In government hospitals, you usually don't have that. If you want to go to a government hospital, you can't take an appointment. You have to just go, wait for many hours in the line. Your records will not be kept. So this e-hospital initiative is a kind of a portal. Number one, you can take appointments, etc. And your medical records will be stored there on that portal, so that if you visit a new doctor, every time the doctor asks you, show me the old reports, right? And you have to see where have you kept the old reports. You take it out from your file, you take it out from the Almira. So on this portal, your old medical records will be stored automatically, so that when you visit someone else, wherever you are, you can access that data, you can access all your reports. That is again a government initiative. Then we have Jeevan Praman. Have you heard of this? Jeevan Praman, what exactly is that? Any idea what is Jeevan Praman? Okay. Anyone whose parents are or were government servants? Anyone whose parents are or were government servants, you would know this. You should know this. So basically, what happens if you are a government servant and you retire, after retirement, you get pension from the government. But how does a government know that you are still alive? Because you might be dead and the government does not want to continue giving you pension. So what happens is, if you are a pensioner, you have to give the proof that you are still alive. Annually, you have to give a proof that, see, I'm still alive. And there a lot of corruption happens. You go to a government office, they'll say, no, this is not you, your photo is very different, now this is not you, we'll stop your pension. Or, and I'm telling you, this happens in real. What happens is, someone by your name may have died in your city. So government will say, oh, now you are dead, see, this is the news, you are dead, your name is here, we will not give you pension now. So that becomes a big problem. So Jeevan Praman is an initiative by the government where, using your biometric, etc., you can certify, you can prove that you are still alive. So that this hassle, this corruption does not happen, that officials don't believe that you are alive, that you are someone else, to prove your identity, so that the pension will still continue. Otherwise, if you can't prove it, the pension will not continue. So that again is an example. Again, these are just a few examples of government initiatives. I know you know many other initiatives. Please feel free to use whatever examples of government initiatives you have in the answers whenever you see a question like this. This is how the MyGov portal looks like. The MyGov also has an app. This is the website. You can visit the website or the app, whichever you want. But my suggestion would be to visit it at least once. You have a lot of options here. You can write blogs, take part in poll or surveys. You also have basically discussions, panels, or different groups. Government organizes quiz competitions also. You can listen to Man Ki Baat. You can have different types of quizzes as well here. The government keeps on organizing different competitions. All these are different things that are organized here. Do try and take some time out, spend a few minutes in this. See how does it work, etc. Now, I wanted to give you example of a very interesting country, not to compare it with India as such, because the scale of that country is very small. Not to compare with India, but just an example of how some countries have done really well when it comes to e-governance. Estonia, it's a very small country in Europe, Eastern Europe side. Estonia is widely regarded as the world's first 100% digital country. It is said that it's a country where you can take birth and die without coming out of your house your entire life, and you will still get all the government services. That is how it works. So it's a pretty small scale country, but what they have done is they have given example to the world of how can we use this. So just like we have an Aadhaar card system, so that the government can identify each and every individual, Estonia also have an ID card for everyone. Based on that, there is a different ID for everyone. 99% of the government services in Estonia are online. You don't have to go out. 95% dash declarations happen online. 99% of banking is done online. Entire country is covered with broadband connection. 98% companies are established online. Now, again, I am not saying that if Estonia can do this, we should also have it. No, because the scale is very different. We are not of the same scale anyway. Their population is much, much lesser than India. But this is an example to show how many countries around the world have embraced this new technology, new IT services, and they have been able to make the lives of their people much better. And Estonia is a prime example of what can happen in such cases. Estonia, on the other hand, has also had issues with certain cyber threats because, see, the more that you go towards technology, the more problematic it becomes for you, and the more challenging it also becomes for you to handle the security threat. There was a time that Estonia had this issue of some cyber threat, but they were able to successfully ensure that cyber threat does not really become a problem for most of the people. But again, Estonia is a thriving example of how nations can adopt a lot of new things if they really want. Estonia, for example, also allows online voting. Now, there are different views people have on online voting. Some people don't trust it, some people trust it. Some countries in small scale have tried to use this system of online voting. Some people don't trust it. But see, the issue here that we have is that if you actually see how online voting can be helpful, look at India right now. On an average, if you look at how many people vote in India, on an average, our voting percentage usually remains between 65 and 70%. Usually. On good days, it might go slightly higher. Bad election days, it might go slightly lower, but it is usually this range. Now, you have to understand it might look like a large number. 65, 70% might look like a large number, but you have to understand 65% means out of three people, one person is not voting. Out of 30 people, 10 people are not voting. Out of 100 people, 35 people are not voting. So it's a large number of people who are still not voting. There are various reasons for that. Someone may not vote saying, oh, it's a waste of time. I don't want to spend 1 hour in the line. I can't do that. Some people might say, oh, this is too far from my house. Some people might say, I am busy. Some people might say, I'm not in the city traveling. I am ill, whatever. There are a lot of different things that you can actually come up with. However, online voting at least has the potential to solve most of these things. Again, I'm not saying that it will be without its challenges, but again, at least this is a solution worth considering. Many countries are doing this. If you look at USA, for example, USA has a different system because when their voting happens, every state in the US has a different type of a system of voting. Even when US has national elections, every state is free to conduct the voting in the manner that they want. So some states in the US have a paper ballot voting. Some states in US have that EVM kind of a thing. Some states even allow the online voting thing. So it has been experimented in some countries. India might come to that stage, but at least for now, we are not. But the end goal of using technology, making the lives of the people better, should be with using these kind of technology. So Estonia is one of those countries, pretty small scale country that is doing that. Okay, there are a couple of questions I'll take up first before I go ahead quickly. Ayushi is saying, please explain early harvest point in more comprehensive way. So, Ayushi, early harvest program basically means using technology at the very basic level. And there are a lot of government examples or government initiatives that are a part of this. For example, in the schools, e-books are being distributed instead of books, digital classrooms, so that if there are schools in the villages which don't have teachers, they can learn online. In the government offices, there is biometric attendance now that is happening. People can apply for leaves with an online portal. That is how government is trying to have e-technology or technology at the basic grassroots level. That is the e-harvest program. So Deepta is saying, please explain the 4 point here. The fourth point here is this: 2% of GDP is saved with digital signatures. So you have digital signatures wherein a lot of documents for the government, you don't have, either you go out in front of the government, you sign, get it attested. In Estonia, many other countries, we have digital signatures. With digital signatures, you save a lot of money. So as per the stats, 2% of their GDP is saved because of digital signatures. People don't have to travel, people don't have to waste time. With the use of technology, they have been able to save 2% of their GDP. Otherwise, that would have spent. That is what is meant by this. Now, again, I am not saying that whatever we studied or whatever we saw with Estonia can be automatically used and can automatically be implemented in a country of India's scale. But then again, that's a very gradual process. From using digital technology that we are doing to being a country that is totally digital that Estonia has done, it's a long way ahead. It's a gradual process that requires a lot of things. It requires much heavier investment. It requires many more skilled people. It requires common people to embrace technology. It requires changes in the education level. All these things are required. But you have to begin somewhere. And the government of India at least has begun the journey. We will see how long does it take to reach that destination, but at least we are on our way to doing those things. Now, as I promised to you, there are a couple of questions to which I will give you the answer, especially to push those students who have still not started their answer writing practice. This is also to show you what kind of questions are asked from e-governance part in the mains exam. So let's see, in 2020, this was a question that was asked. The question was, the emergence of fourth industrial revolution, or the digital revolution as it is called, has initiated e-governance as an integral part of government. Discuss. Now, in these kind of questions, there are a couple of things that you have to understand. First, when the question is formed like this, they are not asking you to write the negative point. They're only asking you to write examples of how e-governance has become a part of government. So in these kind of questions, basically you are expected to give examples of e-governance so that you can prove that yes, it has become an integral part of running a government, that the government is being run with the use of technology, with the use of e-governance. The other thing that you have to understand in these kind of questions is focus on the word limit for a bit. See, the word limit is 150 words. Now, in 150 word answer, it is difficult to give both positives and negatives of the story. In 150 words, it's difficult to have enough word limit to actually focus on both. So in 150 words, usually what do we do? In the main body, we write about positive examples. In the concluding part, maybe give one or two very short points about the negatives. That in the, for example, in the main body, you can write about, yes, the fact that e-governance has become an integral part of the government can be proven or can be understood with the help of the following examples. So you give 3, 4, 5 examples, whatever. In the conclusion part, you can say, while e-governance is an integral part of the government, it still suffers from some of the challenges, including, and you write about challenges, whatever we have discussed. So it depends on the word limit. If, on the other hand, if the same question would have had a 250 word limit, let's assume, same question, just the word limit would have been 250, then I would have suggested in the main body itself, write 5, 6 points about positives, 3, 4 points about negatives, and then conclude with a balanced answer that we have to go forward, but also resolve the threats and solve challenges, etc. So the structure of your answer depends a lot on the word limit also. If the word limit is shorter, you have to be concise, focus on one side more, and maybe in conclusion give 1 or 2 points about the other side. But if the word limit is longer, you can afford to give both sides of the story. So over here, I am going to give you a longer answer so that if you want, you can do it, convert it into a shorter answer as well, or you can use that also, depends entirely upon you. Okay, so let's see. In the intro part, I'm giving you three options. In the intro part, I'm giving you three options. One, two, three, you can use any of these. What have I done in the intro? In the intro part, I have focused on fourth revolution definition. So basically, I've tried to define fourth revolution. Now, let's go back to question in 1 second. Look at this question once again. There are two key words in this question. One keyword is fourth industrial revolution or digital revolution. This is the one keyword, fourth industrial revolution. This is the one keyword. Second keyword is e-governance, right? These are the two keywords. Now, it depends on where you want to start your question from. It depends whether you want to give a definition of fourth industrial revolution or e-governance. Now, what I have done in this answer, look at this very carefully. What I have done in this answer is I have started the intro with the fourth industrial revolution. Why is that the case? Because I know in the main body that will come up after the intro, I will talk about e-governance straight away. So if in the intro also I write e-governance only, and in the main body again I write e-governance only, then I am skipping this entire fourth revolution part, right? The examiner should not feel that you skipped this and did not even mention this. When the examiner is checking your copy, he or she should not feel that you skipped this part entirely. You straight away went on to e-governance and you talked about that. So if my main body is about e-governance, in the intro part, rather than repeating e-governance, I thought, okay, I will start with fourth industrial revolution here so that both of these things can be addressed. These are the things about answer writing that you will learn with time. I am not expecting you to know all these things from the very first day onwards. This is why answer writing practice is important. The more you write, the more you read your own answers, you will be able to learn better. When you write an answer, try and see if you are happy with your answer or not. So make sure that you address all parts. In the fourth industrial revolution, I have chosen to give it as the introduction so that in the main body, I can go ahead and start my introduction, my points about the e-governance part. Now, these are the three different definitions I have given. You can choose any one of these. It depends entirely upon you. Or if you want, you can come up with a new definition of fourth revolution. That is also fine. Depends entirely upon you. But try and see first the definition of the fourth industrial revolution, one of these. Now, because it's a 150 word answer, I suggest your intro should not be more than one line. Since it's a 150 word answer, one line of intro is more than sufficient. If it would have been a, let's say, 250 word answer, even a 200 word answer, then you could have gone with, let's say, 2 lines of intro. But in no case, other than an essay, leave essay apart. In no situation, the GS or intro should be more than 2 lines. Let's focus only on these. Now comes the main body part. Now, in the main body, as I said, you have to tell about the advantages mainly of e-governance. I am giving you a lot of content here. You can pick and choose whichever one you want to include in the answer. How e-governance has become a part of government. It has improved access to services for common people. Better policies are being made. Faster resolution of complaints, brings in more transparency, all of these. If you have some other advantages, feel free to write those also. This is just a hint to you that you can write like this. Also, when you write this, try and explain in at least one line. In at least one line, try and explain what you want to say. What do you want to say when you say faster resolution of grievances? Try and at least write one line for each so that you can have 4 points or 5 points of the main body. Now, as I said, I am also giving you the problems or the issues with e-governance. All of these things we have already discussed. It's not that I'm discussing it for the first time. Whether you want to write all of these or a few of these depends upon the word limit. If the word limit is higher, 250 words, feel free to use all of these. If you think the word limit is only 150 words, obviously you can't use all of these. Use a couple of these maximum in the concluding argument itself. So it really depends on the word limit. How much would you expand? How much would you not expand? How many words would you write? How many would you not write? It depends a lot on the word limit that is given. Try and explain at least in one line each. At least in one line each. What do you mean by this? These are some of the examples that you can quote within the answer. Again, examples can be from your side also. BharatNet, as we discussed, government initiative to connect all the villages of India to high-speed broadband. There is Meghraj also. Do you know what is Meghraj? Do you know what is Meghraj? Okay. Those who don't know what is Meghraj, basically, it is just like Google Drive, cloud storage. So, just like, no, not regarding weather, climate, farming, nothing like that. Meghraj is for Google Drive, like a Google Drive. So, it's online space where you can store your documents, store your data, and it's called Meghraj. Then DigiLocker, you all know. My Covin app, you all know. MyGov, you all know. What is MCA 21? This is a portal for corporates. So if you own a company, for example, this is a portal for the companies mainly. So they basically can file taxes here, apply for licenses, any problem that they have with the government. So it is a portal for the companies to make it easier for them to have business. So again, these are examples that you can quote in the answers if you want to. It depends entirely upon you, because it will all depend on what kind of an answer would you like to frame, in what word limit. All these are examples that you can frame later on. And this is how you can conclude it. This is how you can conclude it, of try and bring in a balanced view, saying that yes, there are advantages of e-governance. At the same time, it has its own issues and loopholes which need to be resolved for having a better life. Now, this is an example of how exactly can you write all these things. It depends on how you can concise this and come up with the ideal answer. This is all the hand holding I can do. I cannot now pick your hand and start writing for you. This is as much spoon feeding as you can get. Even after this, if you don't start writing an answer, I don't know when will you. So you have enough data, you have everything that is mentioned here. At least see if you can write an answer to this question in your own words using this 150 words or 250 words, whatever the case may be. At least try and see if you can form your own answer. I'll give you one more. 2019, see the question. Again, a pretty simple, easy question. 2019, the question is implementation of information and communication technology based projects or programs suffers in terms of certain vital factors. Identify these factors and suggest the measures for their effective implementation. Pretty simple question. They're asking you about the problems in implementing all these policies, in implementing these programs, and then the solutions. And then the solutions. See, not writing an answer and thinking that you will write the best answer after 2 years is like thinking that I will learn swimming on the land, and once I jump in water, I'll be the Olympic swimmer. You cannot become a swimmer without jumping in the water, right? So just thinking this is how I will write, this how I will write, and not writing an answer will not be helpful for you. You can read as many practice questions, you can read as many model answers, but unless you yourself start to write, nothing really will help you out. So you have to take that initiative. If you don't take that initiative, you are going to suffer a lot when it comes to the mains examinations. Again, I'm giving you the entire answer here for you to concise it and see if you can make your own answer. The intro part where we have given definition of ICT, information and communication technology. Then, in the main body, we'll first talk about the problems, all the problems that we had discussed earlier as well. Out of these, I would suggest you don't write this problem now. This has gone out. India right now has some of the cheapest data rates in the world. In no other country, very hardly there are any countries where you can get data at such a cheap cost as India. After Geo came into picture, everyone reduced their prices. That is not really a point you should write, but most of the points will apply. Also, what is non-inclusive nature of technology? Non-inclusive nature of technology simply means, see, for normal people, for common people, using website portal is fine. But for example, think about a person who is blind. Think about a person who is blind. How will they use that? How will they use the website? There are technologies made for them, but the government websites, etc., don't employ those technologies. I'll give you an example. Have you heard of this app called Be My Eyes? There's an app by this name. Have you heard of this? Be My Eyes. Okay, so I'll tell you. So basically, this Be My Eyes is an app specially made for the blind people. So blind people have this app on their phone, and if you want to help, you can have this app on your phone. So for example, I have this app on my phone. So what happens is, when a blind person needs some help for very basic things, they will press a button on their phone, and you will get a video call. So when you pick up the call, it's a video call, and they will ask for some help, and you can help them out. I'll give you an example. So for example, I got a call from this blind person. He had to tell his Aadhaar number to someone, but he did not want him to know his Aadhaar number. He did not want to show him the Aadhaar card. So what he did was, his blind person, he held his Aadhaar card in front of the phone camera, and he asked me, can you read and tell me what my Aadhaar number is? So I read the other number, I told him, and that was he called. 30-second, 40 seconds. He said, thank you, okay, bye. So that's an app. Now, imagine life of a person who is blind, who can't see. For the most basic of stuff, they would not be able to be in a situation to identify things. So for us, it's easy to say, oh, there's a government website, I can do this. There's a government portal, I can do this. But for a person who doesn't have those senses that you have, using all those things is not that easy. Most of our websites are not built for that. By the way, I'll tell you something. I've talked to many blind people through this app. They are some of the smartest people you will ever come across, some of the smartest people. And there are so many people who are blind, and they're IT engineers also. Do you know that? Do you know how? So basically, there are softwares. Let's say this is a laptop. Okay. So there are softwares where, let's say, if you are using the mouse, wherever your mouse goes, the computer will tell you. For example, your mouse is here, it will tell you recycle bill, but it will speak recycle bill. Then you move here, it will tell you name of the folder. You move here, it will tell you the name of the folder. It will keep telling the name so that you stop wherever you want to. And these are the people who actually code. They are the people who actually are IT engineers. So these are softwares that do exist, where they can use laptop, they can use it very easily. But the problematic thing is, the government websites have not included these kind of things. Not just this, the number of books that we have in braille are very little braille books. The braille, as you know, is the technology that allows the blind people also to read. Braille books are not really available. So technology that is being used is non-inclusive. People who have even the slightest of problem, they would not really be included. They would not have a easy time in referring to this. Any other point that you don't understand from here? I think everything else you can understand from here. We have discussed this. Lack of infrastructure, data literacy, people don't know about how to use this. Language barrier, we discussed. Lack of technical proficiency, people don't know how to use apps, etc. Poor internet connectivity, geographical weather related problems. You go to hill stations, far off areas, you will not get internet connectivity. Bad weather, internet connection basically goes down. The moment one water drop falls, your Tata Sky connection is gone. Tata, bye bye. Your DTH connection is gone. Bye bye. Even when there is one drop of rain. So weather related problems still exist. The one of the problems that we have, because of which weather plays a major role in India, is unlike developed nations, most of India's wires are overhead. Do you see in our cities, wires are overhead? There are poles, wires are connected to the poles, right? You go to many developed countries, you will not see any wire because all of that is underground. So when you have overhead wires, you have a problem where weather would impact it. Any truck will cut your broadband wire. You will have other problems. People can basically hook up illegal connection of electricity. But in most developed countries, you don't have this problem because all the wires are underground. Um, anyone here from Chhattisgarh? Is there anyone here from Chhattisgarh? Anyone in the class from Chhattisgarh? Maybe. Okay. If you are from Chhattisgarh, you should know. Okay, some people. And even if you are not here from Chhattisgarh, you should know. So, government of Chhattisgarh is building a new city, new capital called Naya Raipur. So Naya Raipur or New Raipur as you call it, it's a new kind of a city that Chhattisgarh government is building, basically just adjacent to Raipur. So what they're doing there is they are building the entire city on a planned model. And one of the things they have done is not even one wire will be overground. All wires will be underground. In the entire city, you will not find any wire overground. Everything underground, so that the disruption will be much lower. It will not be easy for people to steal. So again, planning has been done. So it's an example of how other countries have worked in India also, and you can give these examples in your answers as well. Then in the same answer, in the main body, we write about the problems. We write about how can we have solutions, what are the solutions required. I told you earlier as well, writing solutions is the easiest thing. Whatever problems there are, just write opposite to it. That will be the solution. So whatever problems we wrote, lack of infrastructure, digital illiteracy, lack of local language, write opposite to it, it becomes a solution, right? So pretty easy. In the main body, write about the solution part apart from the problem. Then you conclude it by giving a balanced conclusion. Again, this is as much spoon feeding I can do to you, giving you question, giving you exact answer. At least now you should try and see if you can yourself in your language form an answer. I am going to give you a practice question as well so that you utilize your weekend and see if you can write this. See, understand something. Even today, if you want to write an answer and you don't have content, for example, for this question, you might not have content. This answer is from social justice. It's from social justice. So even if you don't have content to write some answers, please remember it is absolutely fine to search online and get content right now. Please don't focus on content. I'll tell you why. The more you read, the more you go ahead in your preparation, you will automatically get more content in your mind. So don't worry about content right now. After 1 month, you will have more content in your mind. After 2 months from today, you will have much more content. After 4 months, you'll automatically have much more content. So don't worry about that. If you have to, for example, search for some examples online to write in the answer, do that. Not really a problem. Right now, the focus has to be, can you form a structure to your answer? Even if the content that you have is not enough, take content from online, from other books, no issues. Take content from the PPT also, no problem with that. But try and see if you can form that structure, because content is a continuous journey. You will keep on getting more and more content in your mind when you start reading more. So with every single month, your content will automatically improve. But right now, the focus that you need to have is, can you form a perfect structure to your answer only? Okay. Now coming to the second part of today's class. As I said in the beginning, the second part that we have today is about governance reforms in certain areas. Now, the UPSC, listen to this very carefully. The UPSC in the syllabus does not tell you that you have to read reforms in certain areas. We ourselves have to decide what are the topics in the news these days and what are the reforms that we should read. So what I have done is I have picked up 3 topics that have remained in the news in the past few months, and we will be discussing from those topics what are the problems in those areas and what are the reforms that are suggested. As I said earlier, we will have 3 areas in which we will study reforms today: prison reforms in India, then we'll be talking about healthcare reforms in India, and education reform. These are the 3 things that have remained the most in the news in the past few months in terms of reforms. These have the highest probability of being asked. So we'll be discussing these. In short, again, problem solution, that is what we'll be discussing. I'll be giving a lot of data and examples also, which you can write in the answers. Let's start with the prison reforms in India. Now, India has a problem with the prison system, and there are a lot of issues that I'll come to in just a bit. But first, understand how the prison system has changed in India. At the time of the British, especially, prisons were seen as places where you could take revenge. Earlier, it was more about revenge or retribution, that you did a wrong thing, now come in the prison, now we will do the same to you. Earlier, that was the idea of having a prison: to force the person, to punish the person, to harass the person, do every single thing to break down the person. Now, with time, the idea of a prison has changed. Now, the prison today are for reforms, not for retribution. They are for reforms now. They are for corrective measures. Those who don't know, retribution means revenge. So now the prisons are for reforms. The idea of the prison is, if someone does something bad, comes into the prison, reform the person, change the person, so that when they go out, they can be a part of the society. They can earn a living for themselves, they have some skills, they can do something. That is the idea of prisons these days, that we should change. Now, there are a lot of issues related to prisons in India. I have pointed out some of those important issues. First, the biggest issue in India: pendency of cases. Now, you might say, sir, pending cases, how does it impact the prison? It impacts the population of the prison. According to government's National Crime Record Bureau data, 67.2% of prison population is under trial. Can you imagine? Out of every 100 people in the prison, 67 are those on whom the crime has not been proven so far. The case is just going on and on and on. We have 67% of under trial population, means people on whom the crime has not been proven so far. So they may or may not be guilty, but they are still in the prison. Because the case goes on at such a slow pace, that not many people are released when it comes to this. Now, you might say, sir, what about the bail? But you have to understand how our system works. It's good to see on the TV, on movies, but it's not that easy to get a bail. Especially when you go talk about the lower judiciary, district courts, etc. You can't afford a big lawyer for you. Getting a bail is not that easy in India. And also, okay, Prashant is saying, why is our prisoners denied bail? See, denying of bail depends on a lot of reasons. What crime has been imposed on you, what charge has been imposed on you, what are the evidences in the case, what is the opposition lawyer saying, is your lawyer good enough or not. For all these cases, it is very difficult to get a bail. We also have a lot of old obsolete laws that still continue. Obsolete means outdated. I've discussed time and time again, we have sedition law. We have the Official Secret Act, allowing the officials to actually use people or to actually punish people and put them into jail. We have inhuman behavior in the jails. See, as a society, and this is true with every society, I'm not blaming you or anyone else, but you would also know, as a society, you would not think a lot about people in the prison, right? If given a chance, how would the government spend its limited money? Would you say the government should spend money on the jail people or on the people who are outside the jail? They have to be spent, or you would say the government should spend money on people outside the jail, right? Because people don't give a lot of preference to people within the jail, although they also do have certain rights. Okay, I'll just address one thing that some people are saying to clarify something. Some people are saying Supreme Court has declared sedition law unconstitutional. No, that is not true. Supreme Court has not declared it unconstitutional so far. What has the Supreme Court done? Supreme Court has said that we are deciding the matter. Until we take the final decision, please don't file any more FIRs. So Supreme Court has suspended the application of the law for some time. They have not said that this is unconstitutional. Still not unconstitutional so far. So please be updated about that. Supreme Court has stopped the implementation so far until they take the final decision. Let's come back now. So again, we do not have many police people or police officers being punished for their bad behavior to the prisoners. We hardly see any police officer going to jail or being suspended because of the behavior that they display towards the prisoners. Other big problem is overcrowding. Just an example, in 2020, it was reported that in Tihar, the Tihar jail of Delhi, the famous jail that has a capacity of 7,000 people, it had 15,000 prisoners, more than double the prisoners than the total capacity. Now, what exactly is the issue here? Do you know last year when we were observing our Constitution Day? So every year in November, we celebrate the Constitution Day. So what happened was last year in Constitution Day 2022, Supreme Court was celebrating this. And in the Supreme Court event, the President of India was also invited. So President of India, Sri Draupadi Murmu, she made a speech. And the center point of her speech was this: overpopulated prisons. So she said in her speech that solution to overpopulation of prison is not to build more prisons, but it is to give bail to people who don't deserve to be within the jail. So even the President of India is talking about it. That is why it is a big issue. We also have inadequate staff. In 2020, for example, there was a report that in a Chennai prison, we only had one guard for 100 prisoners. How will the guard be able to control that high of a population? The issue of prisons is also in the news because recently the government of India has introduced something called the Model Prisons Act. Have you read about this? The government of India recently introduced the Model Prisons Act. Now, how and why? Please understand this. Prison is a state subject. So every state government is supposed to have their own law for prison. So why is it that the central government passed the act? First, central government passes an act for union territories. So it will be applicable to union territories because parliament can do that. For the states, it is a suggestion. For the states, it's a suggestion by the government that you should also have laws like this, that you should also have laws similar to this. That is the Model Prisons Act introduced by the government. It is trying to change the jail system in India and bring in more skills. Now, what are the reforms? I can share with you recommendations of a committee that the Supreme Court had appointed. Supreme Court appointed a Justice Amitav Roy committee that suggested how to solve overcrowding of prisons. What did they say? Speedy trial should be ensured. We should have at least one lawyer for every 30 prisoners. Why? So that the bail process, etc., can be better, they can be represented well. Fast track court should also be set up. And the most interesting part is this: they suggested plea bargain should be promoted. Now, what exactly is plea bargain? What is plea bargain? Let's try and understand this. You would have watched this in American movies, American web series, etc., because it's very common there. Let's assume that you are arrested by the police, okay, and the police has charged you with a crime. The maximum punishment for the crime is 7 years. You say that no, I have not committed the crime. The matter goes to jail. The police will tell you that, see, if you go to jail, it will waste your time and money. You have to hire a lawyer. You have to spend time in jail. You will not get bail anyway. You will just waste your time. So police says to him, let's make a deal. Police will offer him that you accept you have committed the crime. In return, your punishment will not be 7 years, it will be only 3 years. So that you don't waste your time and money. This is called plea bargain. That you make a deal with the police that, okay, I accept I have committed the crime. Let's not waste the time of the police, court, and myself. Let me not waste money by hiring a lawyer. I am accepting it. Just give me lesser punishment. This is called a plea bargain. In India, it doesn't happen like that. In India, we don't have this system. I'll give you another example. Let's assume there are 5 people who committed a bank robbery. 5 people together robbed the bank. Police arrested one of them. 4 are still missing. Police will tell that one person that you come on our side. You tell us what did they do, where are they. In return, you will get a lesser punishment. They all will get maximum punishment. You will get a lesser punishment, or you will be free, whatever. That again is called plea bargaining. That is called plea bargaining. Again, in India, we do not have a law on plea bargaining. US has a law, UK has a law on plea bargaining, we do not. That was a suggestion given by Justice Amitav Roy that we should have this. But in India, we do not have this official law. Then there is a problem in the healthcare sector. Now, I'm very sure ever since, for example, coronavirus crisis started, the healthcare system has come at the top of the mind of everyone. Everyone also knows the problems in the healthcare system. In simple terms, the 2 biggest problems that Indian healthcare system has: overpopulation and lack of investment. Simple. And these two are also related to each other. Because we have such a high population, doesn't matter what money the government invests, it always comes down to be lesser than what is expected. Our healthcare sector has a lot of issues. First big issue, lack of medical infrastructure. If you look at our rural areas especially, out of all the hospital beds that we have in India, only 60% are in the rural areas. Now, why is this a problem? 2/3 of India's population lives in the rural areas. And how many beds they have? Only 30%. 1/3 of Indian population lives in the urban areas and they have 70% beds. So there is a great mismatch. You live in a rural area, you fall ill, there's a much higher chance of you catching a more serious disease or even passing away because you do not get the required facility. There is lack of standardization of quality care, meaning that you at some places, some hospitals, some doctor, you might get a good care. But for the same disease, some other doctor, some other hospital might not be able to give you a good treatment. There is so much difference between the level and the skill of doctors and the facilities. Obviously, if you can pay more, it is better. If you can't pay more, that is bad. See, the problem in the entire healthcare system is all the problem of poor only. It's not never a problem for the rich. If you have money, then what is the problem? India has a bad healthcare, no issues. Go somewhere else to take healthcare. The problems that we are discussing are always for people who don't have enough money to afford. None of these would apply to people who have enough money. Like Hemant is saying, India is doing well in health tourism. Yes, India is doing very well in medical tourism. People come from all across the world to have treatment in India, but that is because they can pay, right? In India also, if you can pay, there's no problem of hospitals. Any disease you have, you can pay, you go. The problem is with those who can't pay. What about them? There's also a problem that many of us ignore. Problem of non-communicable diseases. See, our mind works in such a manner that when a disease spreads from one person to the other, we are more scared of that disease. COVID. TB, AIDS, these look like the worst diseases, right? We don't pay attention to diabetes, heart related diseases, cancer. Cancer, at least we still pay attention, but these diseases kill many, many, many more people in India every year than TB or AIDS. But just because these are not something that spread from one person to other, these are non-communicable, we don't really pay attention to that. That is also a big disease burden which we are not focusing on. The problem of inadequate mental health care. In India, even today, if people have a mental issue, they will not share it with anyone. It's a taboo even today to go and talk to a psychologist. You don't want to have, you don't want to accept that you are suffering from depression. If you tell your friends or your family, I am depressed, what will their reaction be? Oh, let's have a drink, you will be fine. Let's go and watch a movie, you will be fine. Let's do this, you will be fine. This remains a big problem. That is the lack of mental health care awareness that we have. For example, and again, those who follow cricket would know, many top cricketers take a break from cricket saying that I am mentally fatigued, I don't want to play. Ben Stokes, England captain, took some months off that no, I will not play. There are so many examples. In India, you will not see our cricketers even talk about this. Why? Because it's considered taboo. Oh, how can this happen? What is this? No, no, there's nothing like that. What will your parents say? Oh, go and have a bath, you'll be fine. Wake up in the morning at 6 a.m., do yoga, you'll be fine. Depression will go away, right? That's how our society is usually made. That is a big issue. We also have a lot of gaps in the doctors that we require. As per Indian Journal on Public Health, India requires 20 lakh doctors by 2030. Right now, WHO recommends we should have at least one doctor per 1,000 people. And where are we? We are one per 11,000 in a government hospital. So when we require one per 1,000, we have one per 11,000. So the number of doctors, number of trained staff is still a problem. Again, I repeat, none of these problems would apply to those who are rich, who can afford the best care. None of this applies to them. They can go anywhere in the world and get the treatment. The problem exists for those who can't afford to get that treatment, being in India. How to solve these? Again, improve infrastructure, improve human resources. Means have more doctors, give better training. See, a part of the problem in healthcare is our government hospitals for healthcare are very good. AIIMS, one of the best in the entire world. But those who want to go, but there are very few of these government medical colleges. So if you want to go towards a private medical college, the fees is extremely high. You can't afford it. So government has to intervene here and maybe increase the number of medical seats, regulate the fees in the private sector. The government spending on healthcare is also not very high. Right now, India spends close to 2% of the GDP only on healthcare and medical research. Our medical research again does not have the kind of funding that it should have. Quality healthcare, as I said, is not accessible. Rich people can afford best of healthcare, but for people who can't afford, getting a good doctor, getting a good hospital is not that cheap. In metro cities, for example, Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, it's now very normal that a doctor will charge an OPD of 1,000 rupees, and it goes even higher. It's very normal. OPD means one time visit charge, you have to give 1,000 rupees to meet a doctor. And it's even higher for many doctors. Not everyone can afford this. Not most people would not be able to afford this. Improve medical healthcare services. Talk more about it. There are some people who have come out, there are some celebrities who have come out in the open talking about depression, but it still remains a taboo issue which people don't really want to talk about in India. Apart from this, also address the root cause of medical issues. See, we have to understand that people don't just become healthy overnight. There are a lot of problems attached to it. I'll give you a simple example. Do you know other people who are attached, or other people who are, let's say, okay, let's give me an example. Can you say that smart cities mission or the Manrega mission is also attached to health? Do you know that? It's also attached to health. How? Let's try and understand. Every year, lakhs and lakhs of people shift from small cities to larger cities for jobs. Every year, lakhs of people shift from villages to the cities to get jobs because they don't have enough jobs. Now, when you come to a larger city to get jobs, you can't afford the rent. Where will you stay? You stay in the slums. Slums are places which were never meant for living. Someone came and illegally built a house, it became a slum. So, because the government never planned that people would live in this area in a slum, there is no water connection in the slum, no drainage, no sewage system, nothing. So, life in a slum, though no sanitation facility, no hygiene, not even electricity connection most of the times, it becomes a hub of diseases. It becomes a proper hub of diseases. That becomes a big issue. So government, what is it doing? It's introducing Manrega, encouraging people to stay in the village to get jobs there. Smart city mission, building more cities with better infrastructure, better jobs, where people don't have to shift to bigger cities. All this is related to how the government can handle the issue of health. So all this is a part of the problem that government is trying to solve. Have better health governance means invest more in health experts, have better laws about health, have better health insurance schemes. Don't react after a pandemic. Be well prepared before the pandemic so that we can at least be prepared if we have a situation like this that arises again. In the end, allow tax incentives. Those organizations that are investing money in research and development, take lesser taxes from them. Put lesser taxes on essential medicines, essential life-saving medicines. They should not be taxed such highly. All these are suggestions that can be implemented to improve the healthcare situation in India. This is a practice question I would want all of you to try and answer over the weekend about the healthcare system, of how the healthcare system works, what are the problems, etc. The last part about education system, I will leave this for Monday. We'll continue from here for Monday. We still have 5 minutes to go. So rather than rushing into this to complete, I would rather spend the last 5 minutes to answer your questions. Okay. So from this, we'll continue on Monday. The last part, just 3-4 slides are remaining. Let me quickly take up a few questions.